Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresham Harkless from CEO Chad, powered by CBNation.co and Blue 16 Media, your choice for all your website design, SEO, and digital marketing needs. And this is talk number 12 in a series that will become the You Are a Media Company course. And this is the first of 4 that I will speak about SEO and why it's important. So the last series of chats, I talked about the blog and why it's important, some best practices and things you can put into practice so that you can be a better blogger. In this chat, I will focus specifically on the difference between SEO and SEM. As with all the You Are a Media Company chats, I usually start out by giving you a definition. This is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to give you 3 different definitions for SEO. One definition for SEO and 2 definitions for SEM, 3 in total, and you'll see kind of the differences between these 2, and we'll definitely drill down and break down exactly the differences between it so you can kind of get it on a more practical level. So SEO is search engine optimization, and it is the practice of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through organic search engine results, and that's according to Moz. Now, I have 2 definitions for SEM, or search engine marketing. The first one is a little bit different than what I'm used to seeing search engine marketing as. However, I want to present that because there is no kind of definitive definition for what SEM stands for like there is for SEO. So you might see different definitions. So it's important to understand when you hear this term or you hear people use these terms, they might mean one or 2 things. So oftentimes you want to ask clarifying questions so you fully understand. So the first definition is more of a broad term. And it makes more sense, to be very honest, from the actual phrase. But again, I've heard it used regularly in a completely different way. So it just depends on who you're talking to and what conversation that you're having. So SEM is defined according to Webopedia as search engine marketing is a type of internet-based marketing associated with the researching and submitting and positioning of a website within search engines to achieve maximum visibility and increase your share of paid and or organic traffic results from search engines. SEM involves things such as search engine optimization, keyword research, competitive analysis, paid listings, and other search engine services that will increase search traffic to your website. And again, that's according to Webopedia, and that has more of a broad outlook on what SEM, or search engine marketing, is, rather than kind of like the niche definition that will follow that I usually have heard, and most people have used it as a very specific type of kind of marketing and how it differentiates with SEO. But for this definition, it actually is more of a broad-based term where it says everything that you're doing online from a search standpoint in order to market your business and increase your visibility has to do with SEM and falls under that umbrella. So SEO is actually a portion of that. So I will follow with the second definition. This second definition is from Search Engine Land, and this is how I have heard SEM reference. But again, I just want to talk about those differentiators so you can understand that people might use it in different ways, so you can understand that you might want to ask clarifying questions to make sure the person that you're speaking, you and the person that you're speaking to, are on the same page. So according to Search Engine Land, SEM is the process of gaining website traffic by purchasing ads on search engines. And SEM, again, stands for search engine marketing. Much of the same, but just specifically looking at being able to use it to purchase ads and advertising. So you're thinking about Google AdWords, which is changing its name as of the recording of this podcast to Google Ads, and not related to SEO. And this is more the distinguished definitions that I am a lot more I've heard a lot more often, and I'm a lot more comfortable as far as adopting. So for the sake of this, I'm going to use this specific definition, but I wanted to bring up a contrary definition that is floating around the internet and also will probably be floating around people that you might speak with, so you can understand that there are different definitions out there related to SEM. So what I wanted to do was really to give you a practical idea of exactly what SEO and SEM is, and also give you some things to kind of keep in mind about SEO and SEM so that you can fully understand exactly what it is and how you can define it and what it kind of looks like. And of course, it's a little bit more difficult to explain without having visuals, but I will definitely try to paint as good a picture as I can so that you can fully understand exactly what SEO and SEM is. So what I want you to do is imagine that you're a dentist. You're a local dentist and you're located in, let's just say, Washington, D.C. And as a local dentist, you start a new practice and you decide that you want to create a website. You bring on and hire a company to do that, an agency that builds your website. And then you realize that you want to increase your visibility. You know that people will go to dentists. You know that people are searching for dentists, but you have no visibility. And maybe as a dentist, you don't necessarily have the most scenic location. So maybe you're within an office building where you don't necessarily have a billboard or a sign out so people can see exactly where you're located and that you are a dentist and that you are actually located in that location, or even your phone number so people can follow up with you. So you have to use a different way to get your name out there. So that's where SEO and SEM kind of come in the fold. So really, SEO is when your potential client goes to Google and they type in dentist in Washington, D.C. And this might be something they do on their desktop. You will see search results show up. And generally speaking, usually they're marked off and shaded and they say ad on them. You'll see usually at the very top, sometimes on the side, you'll see that there are people that pay for placement to show up and rank at the very top of the searches. And it's going to vary and it's going to depend. For a keyword like dentist in Washington, D.C., personal trainer in Washington, D.C., attorney in Washington, D.C., different phrases that people are really competitive and people want to show up for, it's going to be a lot harder, or it's a lot more likely that you're going to see that ad section there. But keep in mind that you may not always see that ad section in place. Keep in mind that a lot of it is relative, because if you try to rank for a word or it's a new business venture that nobody else has heard of, B, it's some phrase that people are going to search for, but nobody's really searching for. There's not any competition. There may not be an ad section, or B, if there is an ad section, it's going to be super cheap because there's no competition for those keywords. So if you can imagine, trying to show up for the word Google before Google was what Google is, those are words that nobody is really searching for, and they created a brand around it, but people weren't actually searching for that prior to it being a thing. And obviously that isn't the best example, but you keep in mind that when you have words that don't actually mean anything, that people aren't actually searching for, you're not going to rank for that. It's going to be easy for you to rank for that keyword because there's nobody else trying to rank for that keyword. So going back to the dentist, when you go to Google or Bing or Yahoo, these are all search engines, you're going to type in dentist in Washington, D.C. You're going to see at the very top, there's going to be a shaded section that says ads. And these are basically your Google ads. Again, at the recording of this podcast, it's changing from Google AdWords to now Google Ads, which is not that big of a change, but you'll see at the very top, you'll have those kind of advertising sections. What that basically means is that anytime somebody clicks on those ads, you have to pay as a business. So this new dentist that's starting his new practice is paying every time that somebody clicks on that specific ad. So it's something to try to keep in mind, and that's where it falls in line more with the search engine marketing that I was talking about, that second definition where you're purchasing ads and placement on search engines. So the dentist that's starting the DC practice understands that he wants to increase his visibility, and he wants to do that as quickly as possible. And 9 times out of 10, the quickest way to do that is to purchase an ad. Again, that does kind of depend, because if it's not a truly competitive keyword, it might be easier for you to rank faster. But by and large, once you pay and create a budget, add your credit card, you will show up basically, as long as you have paid enough and you have a high enough bid, you will rank for that specific keyword, and you will see your advertising quicker than you can for SEO. So that's the big thing to try to keep in mind, and to make sure that you're paying attention to, is that advertising is a way for you to kind of show up quicker than SEO, generally speaking. But pretty much, I would say 9.5 out of 10 times, that's way quicker than SEO itself. So the person that is starting his or her dental practice understands that, hey, I can show up really quickly if I do Google ads. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll probably see another section, and I won't spend too much time on this section, but you basically have what is called the map section. And it's where you can create a free Google My Business account. And I'll touch a little bit more about that, touch a little bit more on that in future chats. But you can create basically a Google My Business account, and you can show up organically in a way in the map section. So keep in mind that that's 2 ways you can show up simultaneously. So it doesn't mean that if you show up in the map section, you're not going to be able to show up in the ad section. Or if you show up in the ad section, you can't show up in the organic section. In reality, you can show up in all 3 sections. But also keep in mind, depending on the keyword that you're searching for, there may not be 3 ways for you to show up. It might just be purely organic, especially if it's not a competitive keyword, or it's one of those long tail searches that no one is really targeting from an ad standpoint. You may not see the ads at all. You may just see kind of the organic searches. So if you really have extremely long tail searches, you'll see that you'll see the quote unquote traditional old school search layout, where you'll just see the organic section. You won't see the ads, you won't see the maps. Even for restaurants, you won't see kind of those different layouts that they have. So it kind of just depends on what it is that you're searching for, but understand that, this is kind of like the traditional way that you'll see, but it will vary, because depending on the vertical that you're searching for, there'll be different layouts for Google, and Google is always kind of testing out different layouts as well too. And you'll see it really varies tremendously, because you might also see videos that show up as well too. You might actually see answers that are already answered, especially if you ask a question. So it largely depends on what you're searching for, but I wanted to kind of touch on the general layout of exactly how it's going to be laid out. But keep in mind, Google is always testing out different ways for them to present the results to you, so you might see a different scenario when you're looking. So again, going back to the dentist trying to rank, he sees the ads at the very top, and then under that he sees the maps. Under that is what is really SEO, or search engine optimization, and really the organic section. And that's where you kind of can just show up. However, a lot of people don't realize, and still may not be aware, that there are things that you can do to your website to help you to rank higher in that organic section. Now, there's a lot of statistics and reports and tests that have been run that show that people are more likely to click on your organic or your organic listing or your organic result if you have an ad on that page, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of different kind of statistics and information around that. But the thing to try to keep in mind is organic is a lot more quote unquote earned than it is for advertising. Then even to some degree, it probably is from a Google a Maps section as well too, because the idea is that Google is really trying to find and return the best absolute result for what it is that you're looking for. And they are trying to be the conduit and the kind of in between that allows people to find what it is as quickly as possible, and really hoping in a lot of situations that it actually leads in some type of purchase or some type of action. So you are going to see, as I drill down a little bit more in these feature chats, just how important and how many different factors there are that go into what returns a result. So it's important to try to keep that in mind. So this dentist, he or she wants to rank and increase their visibility because she may not be able to rank well and have visibility from the very first day, but she wants to take advantage of these 3 opportunities on a average Google search so that she can rank higher, and then she can get more clients and more business because they're looking for her services, but they just can't necessarily, they don't know anything about her. So she's trying to increase her visibility and let people know about her. So that's kind of like the scenario. And you'll see this if you're a dentist, if you are a therapist, if you are a pastor of a church or religious institution, if you have a soccer camp or a basketball camp that you run, or if you're a personal trainer, or you have a yoga studio or a cycle studio, it really doesn't matter. Because more than likely, if you have a service that people are interested in and you're not having to rebuild or recreate a brand, you are more than likely hoping to show up and rank when people are searching for what it is that you're looking for. So especially, I hear it often in the home services, home improvement type industries, where a lot of people will just go to Google and they will type in exactly what they're searching for, and whatever it is that they're searching for, as far as like let's just say a painter, a painter for their house, they might type in painter in California, or let's just say Los Angeles, California. They might type that in, and whatever ranks at the top, they'll probably pick up the phone and they'll call, and they'll see if that person can come out for an estimate or provide a bid, or they'll shoot an email saying these are the times, and whatever they find, they will determine and use that as a way for them to make the decision about who is going to actually do that work in their house. So a lot of people don't actually realize that you can optimize your website in order to rank higher. And I'm going to touch a little bit more on that in future chats, but you just want to try to definitely keep that in mind and understand that, hey, they may not click on the ads because it will be marked as an ad, and it is an ad section, because they may not necessarily trust the ad and kind of understand that people are paying for that. But sometimes people don't know any better, so they will click on the first thing that they see, and sometimes those are ads. Other times, if they may be a little bit more aware of like what it takes to show up in the ad section or not want to support ads, they might go down to the organic section, not realizing that there is a lot of optimization that happens to help people to rank for those keywords. However, you also want to try to keep in mind that there is a lot of behind the scenes kind of earned trust that goes with returning those results. And it's not just, Google is randomly showing you results. They're actually taking a lot of factors, over 100 factors, for what is a good result. And a lot of that has to do with, user experience and speed and so many different things. So you want to try to keep all those things in mind when you're thinking about what SEO and SEM is. So I wanted to provide about 6 things that you should keep in mind to really kind of further the definition of what SEO and SEM is. So keep in mind, I talk about this usually when I first present SEO and the idea of SEO and the idea of search and what exactly it means. Google, or their publicly traded name, which is Alphabet now, is really in the business of returning a good result. So they take in account many different factors, and I talk about the over 100 different factors, but you really want to try to keep in mind that Google is in the business of returning a result as quickly as possible. And more times than not, they really want it to result in some type of purchase or some type of information or some type of action. So when they return a result, they want you to say, I had a really phenomenal experience doing this Google search, because when I made that search, I found what I wanted to find in the first result or the second result or the third result. I didn't have to go to page 10 to find what it is that I'm looking for. And that's one of the reasons that Google has that advantage over the other search engines, is because when you go there, you have generally speaking, a good experience. So a lot of these factors that they're taking into account to return a good result are sometimes things that more established and more in businesses that have a better standing and provide better services usually provide. So I'll give you an example. If I am traveling to Texas, and I'll say Austin, Texas. If I go to Austin, Texas, and I've never been there before, I don't really know anybody from Austin, Texas, but the one thing I do know is that I have my mobile device and I can type on my phone pizza, and maybe I'll type in pizza near me, but because I have my location are connected on my phone, it automatically knows exactly where I'm at. And exactly like where it wants to return results. So Google wants me to have a really good experience when I go and I search for what it is that I'm looking for. So if I type in pizza near me, it automatically knows I'm in Austin, Texas, and it returns pizza results that are around me. Not only does it return those results that are around me, it returns results. I see the map section, I see reviews, I see all the close companies that are near me. I see maybe some advertising for people that will deliver directly to me. I see all that information, and I find what I find in pretty much less than 5 minutes. I click, I go to the first person because they have reviews, or because I see they rank well and they actually are located literally maybe 5 minutes or so from me. I can call and make a delivery, and bam, bam, I have my pizza on its way. So you want to remember that Google wants to provide that great experience for me. Google doesn't want me to type in pizza or even pizza near me if I'm on my computer and have an experience where I'm getting results from Oregon. That is not a good result. If I have to go to page 7 or 8 to find a really high quality pizza place, then I'm probably going to be less likely to use Google again, and I will look for an alternative way to find things. And that might be Yahoo, that might be Bing, but keep in mind that that's what they're in the business of, is helping you to find something as quickly as possible and also hopefully have it result in some type of action. Now, keep in mind, I touched on, some of the count factors. Like I mentioned, there's, hundreds of factors as to what returns a good results. But some of these things include like what your domain name is. Do you have keywords in your domain? How long have you had your domain? Social interaction. Are people sharing the content on your website? Do you have the ability for people to share? Are people actually sharing it via social media? Like Facebook and Twitter? Are you actually getting those shares, and are people interacting on your website? Are they going to your website? Are they going to your website and then they're leaving directly from your actual site? And that could be a good or bad thing, but are they getting what they need when they go to your website and spending time there? How is your title tag and meta description? How is it, and how well does it describe exactly what's to follow on this page? Like I mentioned, if you have, and I am looking for a pizza place, and your title tag and meta description has pizza place, but everything on your content has everything related to maybe a seafood restaurant, that is not going to be a good experience. So when I get to your website and I see that there's stuff about shrimp, there's stuff about maybe crabs and flounder and all these things that are not pizza, then I'm not going to continue to stay on your website. So these are things that Google takes into account because they're trying to send out these crawlers and these Google spiders to really understand exactly what's on the pages and content of your website. So keep in mind that these spiders don't actually read the website like you and I do. They need help as far as understanding exactly what's on the website, so that a lot of SEO at the very heart of it is creating an overall great user experience. And a lot of people forget that the user is not just the person that visits your website and the potential client. The user is also these crawlers, these search engines that are looking for content. So keep in mind that that is also a very important user for your website. And an SEO will be able to basically translate what's on the content of your website, what information's on the website for these Google spiders. So you want to try to keep that in mind. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I think a lot of people miss, which is that not only do you have your users that go to the website that want to be able to click your website and find the information that they're looking for, but also there's Google spiders that are looking for this content and making that match as to showing you as a really good result for what people are looking for. So your title tag, meta description play a big part of that. Also, the content on your website will play a big part of that. I touched on that a little bit earlier. And another big thing is the trust of the domain. There's things where you can actually, there's factors that actually measure the overall kind of authority of your domain. So for example, and I always usually use this example because I'm a big sports nut, is that if you have something that is posted on ESPN.com and you have a feature for you as maybe a personal trainer for star athletes, you have that link back to your site, that's going to carry a higher weight than if you were to be featured on, let's just say, Gresh's sportsblog.com that I just started yesterday. So because of that, and because that domain is Gresh's sportsblog.com versus ESPN, which is getting a ridiculous amount of traffic and it has been established and been and owned and been there for a tremendous and long period, it's not going to carry the same rate. So not all domains are equal, but you want to try to keep that in mind, that when Google is trying to understand, okay, we have something that Gresh's blog is basically saying is breaking news, but we also have ESPN saying the exact same thing. More times than not, they're probably organically going to show the article, which might be the same information or similar information from ESPN.com. So you just want to try to keep that in mind, because not all domains are equal, and there's something called a page rank, which can determine exactly how much trust and authority you have in your on your domain. So the next thing I want to touch on is page speed. This is a very, very important factor. Page speed is ridiculously important because it goes back to what I talked about before. And I mentioned this over and over again when we were talking about websites, is overall user experience. And this relates, of course, to the person that is pulling up your website. And if you want to kind of take something away, understand that SEO is really about being able to find what it is that you're looking for as quickly as possible. So to have a fast loading website that provides content and information that people are looking for at the drop of a hat is insanely important. And it allows people to take actions as quickly as possible. That's a phenomenal thing that you want to try to keep in mind, is that your page speed is really, really important. It's going to be even more important. And if you didn't know, there's two different ways to kind of even look at your page speed, and Google has resources that they provide which allow you to do that, and that will be below this chat in the resources section. But keep in mind that page speed is important, and as of this recording, one of the big factors that is becoming even more important is kind of having an SSL or security installed on your website. So as the time of this recording, Google is rolling out a change, which has already been in effect, but it's going to be an even important factor for ranking for specific keywords as if you have an SSL installed on your website. And keep in mind, again, that this all goes back to why Google is doing what it is that it's doing, because Google is in the business of returning a good result. And one of the things that they do is they try to maintain and make sure that the person that is going to Google to find information can trust Google and understands that Google has its best interest at heart. And one of those things that it does is understand that if a website has an SSL installed, and it does and has, I guess you would say, invested in security and added the security to their website, they have the opportunity to rank higher than maybe somebody who doesn't have that in place. Now, again, that's just one factor. It's not everything. However, it is a very important thing. So it's important to try to keep in mind that, especially as of this recording, it is becoming a more important ranking factor. And I think, that will be something that will, again, increase dramatically over the next coming years. And it's not just for e-commerce websites. So it doesn't matter if you are having somebody that is purchasing on your website. All websites need to have an SSL installed. So make sure you talk to your agency or the person that has worked on your website in order to do that. Now, keep in mind, there's over hundreds of factors that are and need to be taken into account to do this. But you really want to try to understand all those things and keep in mind that Google is in business and they're trying to provide a good user experience. So number 2, when we're talking about SEO and SEM and trying to understand exactly what it means, understand that usually search engines is kind of used really as a synonym to Google. It's kind of like Kleenex. It's not the only search engine, but when years ago, like the word of the year was Google, because you Google something, you don't search for something, you Google something, because Google is the leader in search, and there are more searches on Google than anywhere else. But you want to try to keep that in mind, that when people are using these phrases and they're talking about SEO, they're talking about SEM, they're not really talking about them from a general standpoint. They're more than likely defining it as Google and as Google Ads and Google AdWords. So these phrases are kind of the technical phrases for that, but keep in mind that a lot of people are not even thinking or taking into account other search engines like Yahoo and Bing, but again, it depends. It depends on largely on the budget and how much spend a person has. But being able to do that is to understand that is really, really important. And the next thing to keep in mind is that Google also owns Yahoo. Yahoo is the second largest search engine. I'm sorry, Google also owns YouTube. My apologies. Google owns YouTube, and YouTube is the second largest search engine. YouTube is, if you're not familiar, a video essentially search engine where you're able to search for exactly what results you can find via videos. So if you're looking for like how-tos on how to do certain things, you can go on YouTube and find that. But also understand that because Google owns YouTube, when you go to and do a search and you go to like the videos tab, you'll see that there are YouTube videos that show. And often, especially you'll see this if you're searching for, let's just say like a music video or something, and you type that in Google, you'll see a result that comes in. And again, this is a lot of the differences you can see in a general search or the layout of a search page. You might see YouTube videos that show up when people are searching for those certain things. So you just want to try to keep all those things in mind. And also never forgetting that Yahoo and Bing are also search engines as well. But generally speaking, when people are talking about search engines, they're talking about trying to rank for specific keywords, they're usually meaning Google because that has the biggest opportunity. So number 3 is that SEO is organic, and generally SEM is defined as paid advertising. For example, Google AdWords, which was recently renamed to Google Ads at the time of this recording, is organic. It is actually paid advertising, so you're basically paying to play. While organic is, I always say, kind of like building a house. So it takes longer, but to me, what you're doing is you're building out your domain, and you're building a house kind of like if you were to purchase land and you were to actually start to put bricks and break ground and put foundation, and you're building it over time. Whereas advertising to me is more like the house is already built and you're basically paying a lease, and the lease can be, it could be a year if you're paying for a year, but more than likely you have a set time for how much you're going to pay. And understand that as you don't actually to some degree own that. And again, you don't really own completely everything from an SEO standpoint, because that could be taken from you from a lot of different factors, which I won't go too much in depth about. But keep in mind that it's kind of like a house versus renting, where you're going to leave at a certain point, and potentially because where you lived might be a more competitive place for you to live, your rates might go up. And it's the same thing kind of from like an SEM standpoint. So if there's more popularity around your keywords, then there's going to be more demand. More demand means prices are going to rise. Because prices rise, what you pay to rent that house or that room or that basement apartment may not necessarily cost the same that it costs a year from now. So it's important to try to keep that in mind about the differences between those two things, but understand that if you have to move in someplace tomorrow, you're not going to be able to have a house built. So the SEO may not necessarily be the correct route for you. You might have to do the renting or the SEM or Google Ads or take that route in order to help you build your business. And you want to try to keep that in mind, that maybe you don't spend every dollar that you have on SEM, but you invest a little in SEO so that you can build that house. And maybe a year from now or 2 years from now, or however long you approach it, you will have those things in place so that you can actually move into your house. So that's just kind of an example of the differences between the two. I wanted to drill down a little bit more on that so you can kind of get that definition and understand exactly what that means. And I wanted to touch on maybe another big part that a lot of people don't understand. And like I said, if you own your house, you pretty much kind of own that. You're paying back the bank for what it is that you wrote that note for, and you signed the note for. But you want to try to keep in mind that when you do that, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're guaranteed to show up there and to rank there. So anybody who, might own a house, you understand there's homeowners associations, there's taxes you have to pay. If you stop paying any of those things, then you can basically lose your house still, even though you own it, quote unquote. Even if you have it paid outright, you still have to maintain certain things. So the reason that I bring that up is because what I wanted to do was kind of let you know that Google also has standards by which you have to play. And if you are doing unethical things, and there's things called black hat SEO and white hat SEO, you want to understand that if you're participating in black hat SEO, you could potentially be scraped from the internet. Just like if you're not paying your taxes on your house that you might own outright, you can potentially lose your house. Again, you can potentially lose all your rankings if you are doing unethical things. And one of the reasons that Google does have a constantly changing algorithm to show you exactly what is going to rank high is because they want to make sure that they are maintaining the integrity of the internet and also maintaining the integrity of their results. So if they understand or they catch that there is a company or a business that is doing unethical black hat practices, or strategies or executing those strategies, then they will remove them from the internet and you will get penalized for that. So it's something you want to try to keep in mind and understand that, if you're trying to do something unethical, you're not gonna 9 times out of 10 beat a $1 billion company in the long term. So you want to try to be very cautious about those things that you're trying to put in place. So the next thing is that when you're searching, just like I mentioned, there's generally 3 opportunities for you to show up on the first page, and you can show up simultaneously in all 3 places. The organic usually always shows up. Even if it's something off the wall that you're searching for and there are no results, usually they'll have suggestions about different results, or they'll even show you some potential other topics that might be of importance to you. But keep that in mind as well. Ads, there will be an ad section usually if somebody is actually purchasing or sees value in paying for an advertisement for that specific keyword. So you'll see that oftentimes, from a really practical standpoint, if you see that maybe when people are searching for something very specific, and you see that the search results are not in line with what exactly it is that you search for, because you're testing something out, and you also see that there's no advertising, maybe that's a tremendous opportunity for you to rank high for that specific keyword. So if, for example, there is maybe a religious sect that you have a congregation that you lead, but when you search online for information or content, you realize that there's no information out there, then what you can do is be the first mover, so to speak, and you can basically create the content related to that and blog or through your website, and have you and provide you the opportunity to be that first person there and provide that first opportunity to answer those questions that people have, but you understand that there's no answer for that. So insanely important for you to kind of recognize those opportunities, and that's a good way for you to kind of measure if there is kind of that opportunity out there. So and lastly, the map section. Again, I'll talk about it again. The Google My Business thing is huge. It's a free way for you to basically set up an account. Kind of like it's not as in depth, but let's just compare it to like a Facebook page where you will get a postcard to verify your business. And once your business is verified, you will be able to potentially rank for that map section, but also understand that there are ways to optimize your map section, your maps, your Google My Business profile and account as well too, to help you to rank in the map section, because there is kind of like an algorithm related to that as well too. So those are kind of gives you an idea of the overall layout as well. And the next thing to kind of keep in mind is that SEO is like a library, and it helps by organizing the internet. And that's from an SEO, that's also from an SEM standpoint, even though people are placing themselves in those specific spots. Keep in mind that when you go to a library, you're looking for a very specific book. So you might go to the librarian and say, I want this book about cars. And the librarian goes and shows you the section that has all the books about cars, because there's a specific category that is related to that. That has translated into what was the yellow pages and yellow book, and it's still around, but you used to have to leaf through a book to go through the different category to see all the businesses related to that. That's exactly what Google and the search engines do. They basically comb through the internet, and big thing to try to keep in mind is that everything that is on Google, everything that is on Yahoo, everything that is on Bing is not everything that's on the internet. There are things that have not been combed by Google for a variety of reasons. But the important thing to try to keep in mind is that just because you create a website, it does not mean it's going to show up in Google. You have to usually take certain steps in order to increase the likelihood of it showing up, but you can also submit your website to Google as well too. So there's a lot of different factors that go in, but the big thing to try to keep in mind is that SEO and these search engines are really ways are really kind of like the library where you're looking for specific content. So when you type in your specific search term, understand it's like that librarian. Go into a specific row in the library to show you all the books and all the information related to that. And once you kind of keep and understand that, you know now that it helps to say on your book title that this book is about cars, or this book is about Teslas, or this book is about Honda Accords, or this book is about Cadillac 300Ms, or whatever car you want to kind of talk about. It's important to try to make it easy for the librarian to understand exactly what content is within the books that follow, within the pages that follow. So that's essentially what you're doing from a Google standpoint. And there's a video that I will share below that has probably been the best video that I've seen. It's dated tremendously, but it's one of the best videos that I've seen that organizes, that explains SEO from that standpoint, and really makes it easy for people to understand like what SEO is and how it works and what it does. So something that's very, very important. And the last thing that I'll touch on today is just SEO is not something that you really pay for. It's organic, but you pay for an agency that can help you to rank. You don't have to pay. You can also do it yourself. But you want to try to keep in mind that a lot of people will unethically, or maybe they're just misinformed, they will let you know that you have to pay to rank from an SEO standpoint or organically, and that's simply not true. They will tell you, and you might get a phone call saying that if you don't pay us, we will remove your Google My Business account, and that's simply not true. These are people that do prey upon people that are not necessarily aware of what's happening and what is going on. So you want to try to keep in mind that SEO and even your Google My Business account are not something you pay for. What you might do is you might pay an agency that has the expertise in order to help you to optimize your website, or maybe they set up your Google My Business listing. But there's a lot of people that will call and unethically and unfortunately require people to pay money for something that they don't have to pay for, and they aren't even associated with or connected with the company that they say they are. And often they will call and say they represent Google, and that's simply not the case. So 9 out of 10 times Google does do a lot more outreach than they have in the past, but keep in mind that more than likely, if somebody's calling you saying we're gonna remove your listing if you don't give us a certain amount of money, or if you don't call us yesterday, my guess would be that they're probably not actually an ethical company and an ethical person at that. So understand that SEO is not something that you pay for. It's not like SEM or Google Ads. It's something that is completely free for you to use, where SEM is something that you do have to pay for. But Google does have usually they'll give you a certain amount of money so that you can kind of get started with Google Ads. But keep in mind that that's one of the big differences between the two of those things. But what I'll do is I'll definitely share some resources below in the show notes, so you can kind of learn a little bit more about SEO and SEM and what exactly it means and doesn't mean. And what I will do next week is I'll be back with an interview, and then we'll drill down a little bit deeper into SEO and exactly what that means in the future chats, in the next couple of chats. So this is Gresh signing off. Be sure to sign up for the course at the youramedia.company when the course goes live, and I will speak to you next week.